Move your truck. Now. The voice hit me before I'd even pulled the key from the ignition. I looked through the windshield and saw a woman marching toward my F-150 like I'd parked it in her living room. It was 6:38 on a Friday evening. I'd just finished 11 hours replacing rooftop HVAC units at a grocery store across town. My shoulders hurt. My shirt smelled like hot metal, compressor oil, and August sweat. All I wanted was a shower, something cold to drink, and maybe 20 minutes where nobody needed anything from me. Apparently, Diane Whitmore had other plans. She stopped 3 feet from my hood. Blonde hair, white blouse, white Lexus RX idling behind her, phone already in one hand. You're in my parking space. I glanced through the windshield at the asphalt. No number, no reserved stencil, no name, just 2 faded white lines beside the Cedar Ridge clubhouse. I thought these were first come, first served. Her mouth tightened. You thought wrong. I killed the engine. That little click seemed to irritate her more than anything I'd said. I stepped out slowly, boots scraping pavement. Somewhere behind the clubhouse, sprinklers hissed across fresh-cut grass. A lawn mower droned several streets away. Diane pointed at my truck. I park here every Friday. Okay, so move it. I looked at the space again, then at her. Can you show me where it says this spot belongs to you? That was the moment everything changed. Not because I yelled. I didn't. Not because I insulted her. I hadn't. I asked her to show me the rule. Diane's face went rigid. I'm on the HOA board. That wasn't what I asked. Her phone came up. Camera pointed directly at my face. Oh, so you want to get aggressive? I almost laughed. Instead, I noticed something over her shoulder. A small security camera mounted beneath the clubhouse roof. A green light blinked beside the lens. Once. Twice. Recording. I looked back at Diane. She hadn't noticed it. You need to leave, she snapped. I live here. You know exactly what I mean. Then she slapped her palm against my hood. The metallic bang echoed across the parking lot. 2 people near the clubhouse entrance turned around. Diane didn't care. She stepped closer, perfume cutting through the smell of hot asphalt. I can have anything in this neighborhood towed. Anything. Not any illegally parked vehicle. Anything. I remember that word because 3 weeks later, Diane would sit beneath fluorescent lights in a packed HOA meeting and swear she'd never threatened me. She'd swear this parking space had been officially assigned to her. She'd swear I had approached her. She'd even swear she'd been afraid of me. And for a while, people believed her. What Diane didn't know was that the little green light above her head was capturing every second. 23 minutes of video. 23 minutes that would eventually strip away every bit of authority she thought she owned. But that night, I was just a tired HVAC technician standing beside a dirty pickup truck, wondering how 12 feet of asphalt had made a grown woman this angry. I had no idea I was looking at the first crack in something much bigger. 3 months before Diane Whitmore slapped the hood of my truck, I thought Cedar Ridge Estates was exactly what I needed. Quiet streets. Trim lawns. A clubhouse nobody seemed to use except on weekends. The kind of neighborhood where sprinklers clicked on at 6 every morning and garage doors rolled shut before dark. After my divorce, quiet sounded pretty good. My name is Ethan Cole. I was 41, and I'd spent nearly 20 years working commercial HVAC. Rooftop units in July. Frozen compressors in January. 12-hour shifts inside mechanical rooms where the air smelled like dust, copper, and burned insulation. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the mortgage. More importantly, Cedar Ridge put me 15 minutes from my daughter. Lily was 15 then. She stayed with me every other weekend, and I wanted her to have a bedroom instead of the fold-out couch I'd been calling temporary for almost a year. So I bought a modest 2-story near the clubhouse. Before closing, I read everything. The deed, the HOA covenants, parking regulations, all 63 miserable pages. Occupational habit. When you spend your life reading wiring diagrams, manufacturer specifications, and city codes, you learn something useful. Words matter. And the parking rules were simple. Marked spaces belong to designated residents or staff. Everything else around the clubhouse. First come, first served. That was it. But Cedar Ridge had another set of rules. Nobody had written those down. I learned about them from my neighbor, Tom Bennett, about a week after I moved in. We were standing beside my driveway while I replaced a cracked condenser disconnect. Tom nodded toward the clubhouse. You met Diane yet? Briefly. He laughed without smiling. Give it time. Then he explained the neighborhood's invisible map. The space beside the clubhouse steps was Diane's. Not officially, just Diane's. The shaded space beneath the oak tree belonged to her friend Carol. 2 spaces near the pool were supposedly reserved for board members during meetings. Visitors were encouraged to park farther away. Contractors were told where they could leave their vans. None of it appeared in the covenants. Why does everybody follow it? Tom looked toward Diane's white Lexus parked exactly where he'd said it would be. Because arguing with her costs more energy than walking another 50 feet. That sentence stayed with me. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things. Diane photographing a plumber's van. Diane moving an orange traffic cone into a parking space before a board meeting. Diane tapping on a teenager's window because his car had been idling too long. Always the same clipboard tucked beneath her arm. Always the same phone ready to document somebody else's mistake. And always that white Lexus. She didn't patrol Cedar Ridge like she lived there. She patrolled it like she owned it. Most people had simply learned to move when Diane told them to move. I hadn't. Not because I wanted trouble. I'd spent enough of my life around angry customers and broken machinery to know unnecessary conflict was expensive. But there was one thing I'd never been good at. Pretending a rule existed just because somebody said it loudly enough. So that Friday evening, when I parked beside the clubhouse, I wasn't making a statement. I wasn't challenging Diane. I wasn't taking her spot. As far as the documents I'd signed were concerned, there was no her spot. There was only an empty rectangle of asphalt. And apparently, that was enough to start a war. The first yellow envelope appeared under my windshield wiper Saturday morning. I saw it before I reached the truck. Bright yellow paper against dusty silver paint. For a second, I thought somebody had left an advertisement. Then I saw the Cedar Ridge logo. Parking violation. I pulled the notice free. Unauthorized use of designated HOA parking. Fine, $75. My coffee stopped halfway to my mouth. I read it twice. Then a third time. There was no section number. No covenant citation. Just Diane Whitmore's signature at the bottom in thick blue ink. I could almost smell her perfume on the paper. Lily came outside carrying her backpack. What's that? Apparently your father committed a serious crime. She looked at the empty parking lot across the street. What did you do? Park. She laughed. I didn't. Not because of $75. Because paperwork changes things. A screaming woman in a parking lot is annoying. A sign violation entered into an HOA record becomes something else. I photographed the notice, front and back, then slipped it into my glove compartment. Monday afternoon, I emailed the management office. Simple question. Please provide the covenant section designating the clubhouse space as reserved. No accusations. No argument. At 8:14 Tuesday morning, Diane answered personally. The parking designation falls under established community use practices authorized by the board. That phrase bothered me. Established community use practices. It sounded official without actually saying anything. So I replied. Which section? No response. Wednesday brought another yellow envelope. Failure to comply with parking directive. Another $75. This time Diane was standing across the lot when I found it. Clipboard tucked under one arm. Phone in her hand. Her white Lexus gleamed behind her like it had been polished that morning. You received my email? I called. Her smile was thin. You received my notices. I asked for the rule. I don't have time to educate every homeowner who refuses to respect community standards. There it was again. Not the rule. Standards. I held up the citation. Then put the covenant number on this. Her jaw tightened. You really want to do this? Do what? She walked closer. The click of her heels sharpened against the pavement. Become a problem. I remember those words better than the fine. Because that was when I understood I wasn't being punished for parking. I was being punished for asking her to prove she had authority. By Friday, a red sticker appeared on my driver's side window. Tow warning. The adhesive smelled sharp and chemical when I peeled at the corner. Someone had pressed it down hard enough to trap air bubbles beneath the plastic. Tom Bennett crossed the street while I was scraping it off with an old credit card. Diane. I nodded. He sighed. Told you. She can't tow a legally parked vehicle. Tom glanced toward the clubhouse before lowering his voice. Maybe not. But she's done it before. My hand stopped. What? He told me about a nurse named Rebecca whose Honda disappeared during a night shift. A college kid visiting his parents. A contractor who came outside and found his van already hooked to a tow truck. Different excuses. Same parking lot. Same woman. That evening, I moved my truck into my driveway. Not because Diane had one. Because Lily was coming over, and I wasn't going to let her weekend start with her father arguing beside a tow truck. At 7:03, my phone buzzed. An email from Diane. Final notice. I opened it at the kitchen counter while Lily heated pizza behind me. At the bottom was a new sentence. Continued noncompliance may result in vehicle removal at owner expense. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I opened the drawer beside the refrigerator and pulled out an empty 3-ring binder. The first yellow citation went inside. Then the second. Then the tow warning. Diane thought she was building a case against me. She had no idea she was helping me build one against her. The police showed up on a Tuesday night because Diane told them I had threatened her. That was the moment the parking dispute stopped being stupid. I was coming home around 7:20 when I saw her white Lexus sitting beside the clubhouse. An orange traffic cone occupied the space next to it. Her space. Apparently. I parked farther down and started walking home. Ethan. I kept moving. Ethan Cole, I'm speaking to you. Her heels clicked behind me. I stopped. Diane approached with her phone already recording. You've ignored 3 official directives. I've asked 3 times for the rule. You're becoming hostile again. Again. That word landed wrong. I'm standing here talking. You've been intimidating me for weeks. The evening air smelled like wet grass and hot pavement. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked behind a fence. I noticed her phone held vertically at chest level. Recording. But she hadn't started filming when she followed me. Only now. You need to stop harassing me, I said. Diane smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind people wear when something is going exactly according to plan. You see, she said toward the camera. This is what I've been dealing with. I stared at her. Then it clicked. She wasn't documenting an argument. She was manufacturing one. So I turned away. That should have ended it. Instead, Diane grabbed my forearm. I pulled free. Don't touch me. Her voice exploded. Don't threaten me. Porch lights came on. A garage door stopped halfway down. Tom Bennett stepped onto his driveway. Diane backed away dramatically, phone still pointed at me. Then I heard sirens. 2 patrol cars entered Cedar Ridge 3 minutes later, blue lights washing across beige houses. Diane had called before approaching me. Officer Daniel Mercer spoke to her first. I watched her point at me, then at my truck. Her hands trembled when she talked. Funny, they hadn't trembled when she grabbed me. Mercer eventually walked over. Mr. Cole, she says you threatened her. With what? She says you became aggressive when confronted about repeated parking violations. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not fear exactly. Recognition. Diane had changed the battlefield. This wasn't about asphalt anymore. I explained everything. The parking space. The fines. The missing covenant number. Her grabbing my arm. Mercer listened. No shouting. No handcuffs. But Diane had video. Her video started with me saying, "Don't touch me." It didn't show what happened before. And without that beginning, my voice sounded harder than I remembered. The next morning, Cedar Ridge's community Facebook page had a new post. Reminder, harassment of HOA board members will not be tolerated. No name. It didn't need one. By Friday, neighbors who normally wave were looking away. Then Lily called. Dad, something in her voice tightened my chest. Mom heard the police came to your neighborhood. I closed my eyes. My ex-wife and I had worked too hard to keep our custody arrangement stable. One police complaint could become a question. Enough questions could become paperwork. And paperwork, I knew better than most people, could outlive the truth. That night I sat alone at my kitchen table. The refrigerator hummed behind me. 3 yellow citations lay beside the red tow warning. Diane's email was open on my laptop. I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell everyone exactly what she was doing. Instead, I closed the email, pulled the binder toward me, and wrote 4 words across the first divider. Dates, times, names, evidence. Diane wanted an angry man. I decided she wasn't getting one. The easiest way to make an angry person nervous is to stop arguing with them. So I stopped. No more parking lot debates. No more replies explaining why Diane was wrong. No more standing beside my truck while she waved that clipboard like a badge. I gave her exactly what she wanted. Silence. And she mistook it for surrender. The next Monday, another yellow envelope appeared in my mailbox. $150. I photographed it before touching it. Date, time, location. Then it went into the binder. Tuesday brought an email claiming I had created an ongoing hostile environment. Printed. Filed. Wednesday, Diane photographed my truck from the sidewalk. I photographed her photographing it. Filed. By Thursday night, my kitchen table looked less like a place to eat and more like a contractor's plan room. Covenants. Parking maps. Violation notices. Emails. Meeting minutes. I worked through them with black coffee cooling beside my elbow while the refrigerator hummed behind me. 20 years in HVAC had taught me patience. When a system fails, you don't start ripping wires out. Because you're angry, you trace the circuit, one connection at a time. So I traced Diane. The first thing I found was almost funny. There was no parking compliance officer. Not Diane. Not anyone. The title didn't exist. The board could enforce written parking restrictions, but individual members couldn't invent spaces, issue personal directives, or authorize towing without documented approval. I checked every amendment going back 8 years. Nothing. Then I pulled the Cedar Ridge parking map from the county property records. The clubhouse lot was exactly what I'd said from the beginning. Common property. Unassigned spaces. First come, first served. I printed the map and slid it behind the yellow citations. That Friday, Tom Bennett knocked on my door. He looked uncomfortable. Diane says you threatened her again. I haven't spoken to Diane since Tuesday. I know. That answer made me look up. Tom rubbed the back of his neck. She's asking people if they'd be willing to provide statements about your behavior. What behavior? He gave me a tired smile. Apparently not liking her. I almost laughed. Then Tom said something that changed everything. You know the clubhouse cameras record that parking lot, right? I stopped. What cameras? He pointed through my front window. The one under the roof. There are 3 more around back. The green light. I remembered it instantly. Blinking above Diane while she slapped my hood. My pulse kicked harder. How long do they keep footage? No idea. That was a problem. Digital evidence disappears quietly. No broken lock. No missing folder. Just overwrite. I opened my laptop and emailed Cedar Ridge's management company immediately. Formal request for preservation of security footage. I listed the date. 6:30 p.m. through 7 p.m. clubhouse front parking lot. Then I requested footage from the night Diane called police. I copied the board secretary and management attorney. No accusations. Just preservation. At 9:17 the next morning, the management company replied. Your request has been received. Relevant footage will be retained pending board review. I read that sentence twice, then smiled for the first time in weeks. Across the street, Diane's white Lexus rolled slowly past my house. She looked directly at me. I lifted my coffee. Nothing more. Her expression changed. Just slightly. Because bullies understand anger. They understand fear. What they don't understand is the moment you stop reacting and start documenting. I opened the binder. Behind the parking map, I added a new divider. Security footage. Diane thought my silence meant the fight was ending. It wasn't. It meant I had finally stopped fighting on her terms. 23 minutes. That was how long the camera had watched Diane tell the truth before she started rewriting it. The management company sent me the footage Thursday afternoon through a secure download link. I waited until Lily left for her mother's house before opening it. Laptop on the kitchen table. Binder beside me. Coffee going cold. I clicked play. No sound. Just a wide security camera view of the clubhouse lot under the orange evening sun. 6:21 p.m. Diane's white Lexus entered the frame. She parked. Then she did something I hadn't seen that night. She opened her trunk, pulled out an orange traffic cone, and placed it directly in the empty space beside her Lexus. I leaned closer. There was no construction, no event, no safety issue. She was reserving common property for herself. At 6:34, Diane walked back outside, looked around, picked up the cone, and returned it to her trunk. 4 minutes later, my F-150 appeared. I parked in the now empty space. Then came Diane. Fast. Pointing. Blocking my door. Even without audio, her body language told the story. I stayed beside the truck. She moved toward me. I stepped back. Then her palm hit my hood. I froze the frame. 6 hours, 41 minutes, and 17 seconds. There it was. The moment she later claimed never happened. But the second video was worse. The night she called police, Diane appeared on camera nearly 4 minutes before she confronted me. She stood beside her Lexus, made a phone call, put the phone away, then followed me across the lot. She had called the police first. Only afterward did she create the confrontation they were supposedly responding to. I watched it twice. Then a third time. The refrigerator hummed behind me. That was the only sound in the room. I could have sent the footage to every homeowner that night. I wanted to. Instead, I downloaded both files, made 2 backups, and wrote the timestamps on paper. Then Tom called. "You need to see something." He came over carrying his tablet. 3 years earlier, his doorbell camera had captured Diane arguing with Rebecca Hayes, the nurse whose Honda had been towed. Same parking lot, same orange cone, same pointing finger. Rebecca arrived 20 minutes later. She brought towing receipts, $486. Then another neighbor, Mark Ellison, emailed me photographs from a board meeting the previous year. Diane's cone appeared again. By midnight, the pattern was sitting across my kitchen table. Different residents, different dates. Same method. Reserve an unassigned space. Confront anyone who used it. Create a violation afterward. Then hide behind the HOA logo. The next morning, I requested Cedar Ridge board minutes authorizing Diane's parking enforcement powers. The board secretary responded 2 hours later. No such authorization could be located. I stared at those words. Could not be located. Translation? Diane had been acting on authority nobody had given her. But I still needed one thing. I needed her to put her version in writing. So when the board scheduled a formal hearing over my repeated violations and threatening conduct, I didn't object. I accepted immediately. Diane thought the hearing was where she would finally corner me. She didn't know about Rebecca. She didn't know about Tom's footage. She didn't know I had the parking map. And she definitely didn't know I had watched her orange cone appear on camera before my truck ever entered the lot. I closed the binder. The plastic rings snapped together with a clean metallic click. For weeks, Diane had controlled the story. Now I had the 23 minutes she couldn't edit. The hearing was scheduled for Thursday at 7 p.m. Diane arrived at 6:32. Of course she did. I watched from my kitchen window as her white Lexus rolled toward the clubhouse and stopped beside the steps. Then she parked in the same space that had started everything. No cone this time. She carried a leather folder under one arm and wore a navy blazer that made her look less like a neighbor and more like someone preparing to prosecute one. I arrived 5 minutes before 7. Binder in my left hand. Laptop bag over my shoulder. The clubhouse smelled like burnt coffee, carpet cleaner, and Diane's perfume. About 30 residents had shown up. That surprised me. Diane sat beside board president Richard Palmer, smiling like the verdict had already been printed. Rebecca Hayes sat in the back. Tom was beside her. Neither looked at me. Good. Diane didn't know why they were there. Richard tapped the table. This hearing concerns repeated parking violations and alleged threatening behavior involving Mr. Ethan Cole. Diane immediately raised her hand. I'd like my statement entered into the record. Perfect. She read from 2 typed pages. The parking space, she said, had been officially assigned to her for board duties. I had knowingly violated that designation. I had approached her aggressively. I had threatened her when she attempted to enforce HOA policy. The orange cone? She specifically denied placing one there. Then came the sentence I'd been waiting for. My actions were fully authorized by the board. Richard's eyes shifted toward her. Just slightly. I wrote 4 words on my legal pad. She said it herself. When Diane finished, Richard turned to me. Mr. Cole. I kept my hands flat on the table. I have 4 questions. Diane leaned back. First, can the board provide the document assigning that parking space to Ms. Whitmore? Silence. The secretary shuffled papers. No. Second, can anyone identify the covenant I violated? More paper. More silence. No specific covenant has been located. Diane cut in. Established practice has always. Richard raised a hand. I continued. Third, did the board authorize Ms. Whitmore to issue parking directives or order vehicles towed? The secretary looked directly at Diane. No, her smile disappeared. Not dramatically. Just gone. I opened my binder. Yellow paper whispered against plastic sleeves. And fourth, is Ms. Whitmore willing to confirm that everything in her written statement is accurate? Diane looked around the room. She still thought confidence could carry her through. Absolutely. Including that you never placed a cone in that space? Yes. Including that I approached you? Yes. Including that you had board authorization? Her voice sharpened. Yes. I nodded. Then closed the binder. Thank you. Diane blinked. She'd expected an argument. Instead, I had just let her lock every door behind herself. Richard frowned. Mr. Cole, do you have evidence you'd like the board to review? I do. I reached into my laptop bag. The zipper sounded impossibly loud in the quiet room. Diane's eyes followed my hands. For the first time since this started, I saw uncertainty in them. I connected the laptop to the clubhouse television. The screen turned blue, then black. Then the security footage appeared. Timestamp in the corner. 6:21 p.m. Diane's white Lexus entered the frame. Nobody spoke. On screen, her trunk opened, and an orange traffic cone appeared in her hands. Somebody behind me whispered, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." I didn't look at Diane. I watched the screen. Because the best thing about the truth is that once you finally give it room to speak, you don't have to raise your voice at all. The orange cone was only the beginning. On the television, Diane carried it across the parking lot and placed it in the space she had just sworn was officially assigned to her. Nobody said a word. The projector fan hummed. Diane shifted in her chair. That doesn't prove anything. I clicked forward. 6:34 p.m. on screen. Diane removed the cone. 6:38, my truck arrived. 6:40, she marched toward me. 6:41, her palm struck my hood. I paused the video. The room went completely still. Richard Palmer turned toward her. "You stated Mr. Cole approached you." "He did. The camera angle is misleading." I clicked again. The second recording appeared. The night she called the police. There was Diane beside her Lexus, phone against her ear. Timestamp, 7:16. Then she put the phone away. At 7:18, I entered the frame. At 7:19, she followed me. The police dispatch record shows the call came in at 7:16, I said. Rebecca whispered behind me. Jesus. Diane's face had gone pale. He had been threatening me for weeks. I didn't answer. I opened the binder. First came the yellow citation. Unauthorized use of designated HOA parking. Then the county parking map. No designated space. Then Diane's email describing established community use practices. Then the board secretary's response. No authorization located. Paper after paper. Date after date. Her authority disappeared one document at a time. Finally, Rebecca stood. My car was towed because of her. She placed a receipt on the table. $486. Tom raised his hand next. Then Mark. Then a woman named Susan Parker from 2 streets over. Different stories. Same yellow notices. Same threats. Same orange cone. Diane suddenly stood. This is ridiculous. These people are disgruntled homeowners who have always had problems following rules. Richard looked at her. What rules? That shut the room down. For once, Diane had nothing. No clipboard could save her. No official sounding phrase. No phone camera pointed at the right 5 seconds. Just silence. Richard called an emergency executive session. 27 minutes later, the board returned. Diane was removed from all compliance duties effective immediately. Every parking citation she had issued without documented authorization would be reviewed. All pending fines against me were suspended. The towing records were going to an independent management audit. Then Richard said the words Diane clearly hadn't expected. "Ms. Whitmore, please surrender your clubhouse keys." Her fingers tightened around them. Metal clicked against metal. For years, those keys had probably felt like authority. Now they just sounded like keys. She dropped them onto the table. Nobody applauded. I was glad. This wasn't a football game. Rebecca had lost almost $500. Other residents had paid fines they never owed. My daughter had wondered whether her father had threatened a woman. That deserved something better than cheering. As people filed out, Diane passed me near the door. Her perfume reached me first. She stopped. "You think you won?" I looked through the clubhouse window. Her white Lexus sat beneath the parking lot lights, in the same unassigned space. "No," I said. "I think the camera did." Then I walked home. Behind me, the clubhouse door clicked shut. For the first time since I moved to Cedar Ridge, Diane Whitmore didn't have a key to open it. 3 weeks later, I came home at sunset and found the parking space empty. The same one. 12 feet of asphalt beside the Cedar Ridge clubhouse. No orange cone. No white Lexus. No yellow paper waiting beneath somebody's windshield wiper. Just an empty space. I slowed the F-150. Lily sat beside me with her backpack between her feet, scrolling through her phone. "Dad, there's a spot." "I see it." I could have parked there. Part of me wanted to. Not because it was closer. Because after everything Diane had done, pulling into that space would have felt like planting a flag. Then I remembered Rebecca's towing receipt. Tom's old video. The police lights reflecting across the houses. Lily asking why her mother had heard I threatened somebody. Winning had already cost enough. I drove past. Lily looked up. Why didn't you park there? I pulled into another open space 20 yards away. Because it was never about the parking spot. She gave me that look teenagers give their fathers when they suspect a lecture is coming. I smiled. Come on. The independent audit finished the following week. 32 parking citations issued by Diane were voided. 9 homeowners received refunds. 3 towing cases were referred back to the management company for reimbursement review. The board adopted a new rule requiring every violation notice to include the exact covenant section being enforced. No section number, no fine. Towing now required written approval from management except for actual safety emergencies. Simple rules. The kind we should have had all along. Diane resigned from the board before they could vote on removing her permanently. She still lived in Cedar Ridge. Still drove the white Lexus. But the clipboard disappeared. So did the orange cone. The first time we crossed paths afterward, she was coming out of the grocery store. Our eyes met. She looked away. I didn't feel triumphant. Mostly, I felt tired. That surprised me. For weeks, I'd imagined justice would feel louder. Like a courtroom gavel. Like applause. Like watching somebody finally get exactly what they deserved. It didn't. It felt like quiet. Like walking to my truck without checking the windshield. Like seeing neighbors use the clubhouse parking lot without wondering whether they were standing in somebody's imaginary territory. Like Lily coming over on Friday without asking whether the police were coming back. One evening, Tom and I stood outside while sprinklers hissed across the grass. A teenager pulled into that infamous space. Nobody stopped him. Nobody photographed his license plate. Nobody came running with a clipboard. He got out carrying a basketball and disappeared into the clubhouse. Tom laughed. Think Diane saw that? Probably. You think it bothers her? I looked up. The little security camera beneath the clubhouse roof was still there. Its green light blinked once. Then again. I hope not. Tom raised an eyebrow. I shrugged. If she learned something, it shouldn't. That camera had been above us from the beginning. Diane simply believed she controlled the story because she was the loudest person telling it. She was wrong. She wanted ownership of 12 feet of asphalt. What she lost was the authority she had spent years pretending she possessed. I never needed revenge. I needed the record to stay intact long enough for the truth to catch up. And eventually, it did. That's the thing about justice. It doesn't always arrive screaming. Sometimes it sits quietly in a binder. Sometimes it blinks green above a parking lot. And sometimes it waits 23 minutes for a bully to tell one lie too many. Justice isn't loud. It's smart, patient, and inevitable.